Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This is a special edition of the Moving Iron Podcast, and this is the TractorZoom Insights edition here, where we're going to talk about what's going on in the marketplace as far as what TractorZoom sees happen out there with the auction values. And they've got a special discount going on right now. If you go to tractorzoom.com and use the code Moving Iron, you'll get $75 off of your subscription for the year. So this will be a good deal for everyone to do. But when you see this information that we're going to lay out right here, it's going to be some good reasons for you to definitely jump into to wanting to use this what you see here. So go to ironcomps.com and use the code Moving Iron, and you'll save $75 off your subscription. So with me again, as normal, is Kyle McMahon with TractorZoom. So Kyle, how you doing, bud?
Good. How are you, Casey?
Not too bad, man. Survived another October snowstorm. We had about 10 inches come through here, so that's about typical somewhere around the week of Halloween or thereabouts. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. How's the weather out your way?
Well, I think people are complaining about the 2 inches we got in the Des Moines area compared to nothing to the 10 inches that you got. So comparatively speaking, we better be all right.
Right on. How's so with all the craziness that's happened out in Iowa with what's it called, the derecho or whatever happened out, the massive storm thing that came through there that leveled a lot of stuff. What is your feel right now with the folks that you're talking to out there, and kind of what's the overall kind of barometer of the folks out your way?
Yeah, it's interesting. This summer, the derecho was the big hot topic, right? That was just 30 miles north of us, where I live here in the Des Moines area, and I really think that the election has compressed or depressed a lot of the derecho conversations. I was just driving around during harvest. It was interesting watching guys have to harvest their crop one direction and always have to double back and keep going the same direction. So, it probably took a lot longer to get that stuff harvested. Some of it's not getting harvested, but guys are moving through it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's there's nothing been easy in 2020. That's for sure. It's been a crazy year, whether we're looking at commodity prices or weather or just trade or whatever it might be, and you've put together some pretty good slides here with some great information, and you and I were talking back and forth before we got started here, and this first slide you've got up here is quite interesting. I mean, so what you've done here is you've taken the Purdue Farmer Sediment Barometer and compared that to auction values and how you see that, and lo and behold, they match up pretty nice.
Yeah, we were very shocked. Obviously, when farmer sentiment is high or low, traditionally that means net farm income changes high or low. Mm-hmm. But we never knew that would affect the value of equipment, or in this case, tractor prices. So similarly, the chart we have, we literally overlaid the farmer sentiment that Purdue puts out to what we see in tractor auction prices, just all tractors. And they correlate very, very closely. And what I would love to spend some time talking about is what this is going to do to Q4 of 2020, and kind of compare it to what happened in Q4 of 2019. Because if you see at the tail end of this graph, you see farmer sentiment going the opposite direction of the machine prices, and so we're starting to see that as a leading indicator of some strong machinery prices and tractor prices coming in here in November, December of this year.
Yep. Yeah, and I would echo that. I mean, I guess you look at all the stuff that's going on, the different payments that have come in, the different commodity prices right now. I mean, I got to go back and look, but I want to say December corn closed up like $4.16 3/4 or something like that today. I mean, it's pretty comparatively to where we were at in March, where corn was people were taking bets if it was going to get below $3. You know what I mean? So now we're $1.20 higher on the corn. wheat is higher. You look at soybeans are significantly higher than what they've been. Hogs have had a run. Cattle are mixed most days, but there's a lot of positive things going on out there as we head into the end of the year. And I got to think that there's going to be some pretty good opportunities. That there's going to be some. The other thing too that I want to say about that is, with harvest being as early as it was this year, guys are going to have. You got to think about the last 5 years, 3 years for sure. It was late December when folks were getting stuff done. If not, they were actually cutting. Either they were cutting beans or picking corn, maybe even into January. This is going to be one of those years where they've got 45 days, 60 days in some cases to really make a good decision about what they're doing, do some research, really go out and take a look at what their needs are, and then start looking at what's going on out there on auctions, looking at dealer lots. All those different things start to come into play, and we're going to start seeing some. I think we're going to start seeing some rapid movement in equipment that's on the lot, whether it's new or used. And I think there's going to be some triggered buying that's going to come because they've held out. They missed the first one, missed the second one, and they're damn sure not going to miss the third one. And I think those are going to be some trends that we're going to see develop. And barring the guy that's going to sit and wait for that mid-December auction and watch that specific piece roll by, and if it brings what he wants it to bring, and he'll buy it. If not, I'll wait till January and do some stuff there. But I am very optimistic about November 15th through December 25th. I feel like those are going to be some pretty busy months for the dealerships and auctions for that matter.
Yeah, I'd love to know kind of, I don't know if you're going to spill the beans on all your strategies of what you're going to do, of how you're going to move inventory the right way here come this November, December time period. But like just from the auction perspective, Casey, the 450 auction companies that we work with that advertise their auctions with us at tractorzoom.com, we're expecting like record numbers of auctions, whether they're retirement sales, whether they're consignment sales, just the sheer volume of these consignment sales that are expected to come up. There's supposed to be a lot of inventory moving. And just as you're mentioning, if we have a big CPAP payment, as well as higher than expected commodity prices, you would assume that that's going to significantly jump the net farm income. So farmers are going to have some disposable income to play the tax game here at the end of this year and get a little depreciation under their belt and upgrade the machines that they've probably been neglecting, which are what we're seeing in our data is tractors.
Yeah. One thing that I'm going to be curious to see is how much of this gets pushed into 21. I think that's going to be the real trigger there is to how much of this stuff gets purchased in 20 versus 21 and what that looks like. And, quite frankly, there's probably enough losses out there that they can start taking a look at and doing some different stuff. But there's so many different additives that have been put into place here that there could be a lot of stuff that gets done all of a sudden. Again, it goes back to that, guys having 45 to 60 days worth of time to, talk to their accountant and sit down and really measure what they've got going on and what that looks like. So, I mean, I don't know. Part of me thinks it's going to be just I don't want to say a free-for-all or a windfall or anything like that of people coming ready to buy stuff, but I do think we're going to see a spike in basically from November through February of guys buying stuff. I think there's going to be a good opportunity to move a lot of equipment in that time frame, whether it's on the dealer's lot or whether it's auctions. I just think there's going to be a ton of opportunity for stuff to get moved. What's some of the guys, like you're talking to some of your auction folks, what are they telling you? I mean, are they just getting guys right and left that are talking to them about listing stuff, getting some stuff going, or is it just kind of like, we're working with what we've got and we're not really adding anything to it?
Now we're seeing a lot of sale bills already starting to be developed, and we're starting to take calls from the auction company saying, hey, 30 days out, getting ready to have an auction. This is what we're expecting to be there. And I think because of the early harvest, as you're alluding to, we're seeing some of these auctions actually going to trigger a little earlier than they have in the past.
Right.
Last year when the harvest dragged on forever, it seemed like
never ended.
People were really nervous to have that November auction, and we're seeing guys starting to book these machinery auctions 30 days out. Like 2 weeks ago, they're starting to book them in early November.
Yep.
So we're seeing we're expecting to see a lot of inventory, and I hope it was from folks that were listening to you and I talk about or advising people to sell some good low-houred machinery, whether it be combines or tractors, because they sell really well at auction. We're starting to see some really, really nice equipment come through the block here the later part of November. Yeah. And, if the same thing holds true what it did in this pre-harvest auction season and a lot of these big dealer auctions that happen this summer.
Right.
There's going to be some big prices, and there's going to be, and I always go back to this, there's going to be a good opportunity for good quality used equipment, low-houred equipment, coming to auction for those farmers to be able to look at.
Yeah.
So, question from the dealership: Are you guys being able to strategically? Are you guys starting to take calls at all from farmers saying, "Hey, I'm looking to upgrade"? What's kind of the sentiment, the farmer sentiment out your way from the dealership's perspective?
No, I think we have, even before what we see happening coming together now, we've had plenty of folks with the idea that it's time to upgrade, and we're going to work through what we've got and kind of see how the chips fall. And we've done a great job of working with those customers and doing some different stuff out there. But we've got more people coming to the table now. We've got some folks out there kicking tires right now and looking to see what happens. And I mean, like I said, I think our November and December are going to be great months, better than we've seen in the past. Typically, November is a slower month just because there's so much harvest still going on. I mean, typically in my neck of the woods, we're starting corn harvest the last weekend of October, and hopefully they're done by Thanksgiving. That's a typical year. I mean, we're going to be done when they typically start. You know what I mean? So there's going to be a great opportunity for folks to really kind of weigh what they've got. So, yeah, we're getting some phone calls, we're getting some action, we're getting some people excited about things, and there's things going on out there. But we're stacking them deep and selling them cheap. That's what we do. So it's there's plenty of good stuff going on there.
Good. All right. So the other topic I really want to chat with you about is what we're seeing come to auction is the average hour of tractors is continuing to rise year over year. So 2018 to 2019, we saw an 8% increase in the hours of machines. From 19 to 20, we've seen an 11% increase of hours. So it appears to me that the OEMs, naturally they're not manufacturing as much equipment, and farmers aren't wanting to buy a lot more new equipment than they were, say, in 2014. So as we see this inventory aging in terms of hours on machines, and the OEMs are backfilling a lot from the new perspective, how do you think about that from a dealer and maybe from some of the guys listening or the folks listening, really understanding where those opportunity zones can be from a buyer's lens?
Well, I think you can look at the auctions that we've seen June, July, and August, right? And even into September. I mean, what were the ones that brought big money, right? They were the machines that weren't out there. Those hour ranges that weren't out there. 350 less hour, separator hour combines. Tractors that had less than 750 hours on them. You start looking at some loader tractors that had 250 hours on them. I mean, stuff like that just wasn't in captivity during that time, and still, quite frankly, isn't necessarily in captivity now, right? I'm not saying that there isn't any of those out there, but it's hard to find them, right? It's hard to go out and find those machines. And I think when you look at what you see here, what you've got here is a great illustration as to what we've seen happen through the duration of this down cycle that we've been, the 7-year down cycle that we've been in. You look at the 2018 stuff to the 2020 stuff, and you're seeing on average about 700, 900 hours worth of increase in hours. And what we're seeing happen is so much of the same equipment showing up on the dealership lot and on the auction block that's got the same number of hours on it, right? I mean, if you bring a 2012, 2013, 2014 combine tractor, four-wheel drive, loader tractor, whatever it is, to the auction block or to the dealership, I mean, it's kind of almost like a rubber stamp to some extent about what it's worth. There's no big shocking surprise there of what that machine brings on auction. Same way with, there's no big shock as to what it's being asked for on Tractor House or Machinery Pete or wherever the stuff gets listed at for sale. Now, but retrofit that back into that 2-year-old combine that's got 750 separator hours on. That's a machine that's hard to find, right? A 1-year-old machine that's got 350 hours on it, something like that. And all of a sudden nobody knows what that machine's worth, because it's a unicorn out there that is hard to find. Now, we've established that based on some auction values and what we've seen happening out there, but for the most part, up until that point, nobody really knew. I think some people thought, I know what I thought those machines were going to bring. When I looked back at Sinclair's auction when they had that deal, and I saw they had 60-some combines on there, I'm like, holy crap. These guys they got some balls, man. They're going to put 60 combines on one auction, all sell in one day in today's marketplace. My God, those guys got some balls, right? But look to what happened to them. Look what they had on there. The mix of combines they had on there. It was a mix of combines that we didn't see up until that point. And then you start looking at what Ag Pro did, and you start looking at what what was the other one that was in the mix doing that? But it kind of fizzled out. I mean, you kind of saw that kind of start to fizzle when in late September, in those few auctions that we saw kind of there at the tail end, the market had that backlash kind of caught up with itself, and you started to see some normalization out there as far as what those machines were worth. And you kind of saw a little bit of a dip there in late September as to what those machines were bringing that we had seen, previous auctions bring, pretty big money. And the joke I told some guys I worked with was, I was talking to Aaron Fennell about this kind of thing. I was like, lightning can only strike the same place 10 times before it doesn't strike there again. And that's kind of what we saw happen. It's constantly just, I was like, holy crap, this can't keep going. And it did. It went a lot longer than I thought it would. But then you hit that down spot and you saw that kind of curve off. Now, that being said, I think if those same machines came to market today, you'd see more of that premium being put back into that marketplace, because now look at late September compared to the end of October commodity prices and what we see happening with stuff going to China and the stuff we see happening out in the marketplace, all the influencers that we see out there. I really think you're going to see some big moves towards the upper end of that, like we saw back in June, July, and August and September.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And what we keep talking about in our office is still comparing 2019 to 2020 and Q4 to Q4, right? So, in Q4 of 2019, we had bigger yields than expected. We had MFP payment, and there's optimism of trade war. So, farmers' sentiment was good. They're saying, "Hey, let's go upgrade." And we explicitly saw combine prices increase dramatically. I forget the exact number. It was like 15% from August season to December. Part of that's just the type of seasonality in the equipment business. But as we relate that to the big rally in commodity prices plus the government payment that's going to be coming down the pipe here later this year, we're sitting back saying, okay, the thing that we look at is as the tractors hours are aging, they're getting higher. It's a little bit harder to find that low-houred machine. So as farmers have more cash in the pocket, we're sitting back saying, well, we know prices are going to go up in Q4, but how high are they going to go? And what's the premium going to be paid on that 350 sep-hour combine, 300-hour to 750-hour tractor?
Right.
So sitting back looking at those dealer auctions this summer were really good indicators of what I think we're going to see, but maybe to a larger degree here now that farmers are feeling a little bit more comfortable about their positions this year.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with that. I mean, I think there's a shot in the arm here that this is the same. I feel like this is a similar kind of reaction and feel of the marketplace that we saw in whatever it was. When was that, May or June or whenever we saw that 450 corn range in 19?
You can. Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So I mean, if you go back and look at that, I feel the same thing now. Right now, we're knocking on that 420, 425 range. You're starting to see some volatility, intraday volatility in the marketplaces. If you take a look and watch what's going on there, and you're starting to see these movements happen, where you're starting to see, we're down 2 or 3 or 4 cents today, and we gain it all back tomorrow +2, and then we might lose 2 or 3, and then we gain back 2 or 3 more on top of that the next day, and you're starting to see these back and forths that were starting to come in, and that volatility, the same level of volatility that we saw leading up to that 450 thing, and then we got to that 450 number. I think it might have hit up in 460 for a minute or something like that, but when it really corrected, that's when we got that bad news that the China thing didn't happen like we thought it was going to happen, and so on and so forth. But I mean, right now, the world right now is in a bad spot. I mean, I pulled up. I was talking with Chip Nellinger the other day, and I brought up the world, I can't remember what it was, but it was like the world drought map, and a lot of the world in some key growing areas for rice, wheat, corn, soybeans, there's some pretty epic droughts going on right now. Some very dryness, a lot of dryness going on that's really driving what we see happening here. And then, the market kind of hinges on every drop of rain that falls in those drought-stricken areas and what it looks like. But, Brazil's in a bad spot. You look at, Central Asia and what that looks like. You start looking at, China, obviously, they're on the opposite side of that. They're in an epic flood. You got what was happening in the plains and in the western part of the United States as far as drought goes. So, I mean, there's a lot of information. Even in your neck of the woods, you're starting to see some drought creep into Iowa and some drought in Iowa and Illinois. So there's some pretty big things now. I'm not going to sit here and start pulling this alarmist lever by any means, because we got a long ways till planting season comes around. But I mean, if this continues the way it's looking, and things continue down the same path that we're going, Sean Hackett's talked about it a lot in this podcast about how the weather patterns are lining up to where we're moving into a fairly La Nina style area that's going to give these longer dry spells are coming our way. So I mean, who knows what that looks like? But I really feel like there's going to be a lot more confidence in the marketplace than what we've seen in the past, just because I think we're going to see higher highs and higher lows than what we've seen here in the past.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And just speaking from the Iowa level, we definitely had a drought in western Iowa. I was talking to a large landowner who owns farms all across the state, and his corn on corn ground was horrendous. Mm-hmm. He was picking some 300, 400 acre fields with less than 100 bushel yields on corn. Wow. Which is, obviously not good.
Right.
So it's that the corn on corn ground around here has not been good. But that drought is a serious issue.
Yep.
I suppose going into this mm-hmm. season, from our perspective, we're expecting a lot of inventory to move and bigger prices. If you were to advise a seller, this is one thing that I've always tried to think about, is if you're trying to advise a seller, what type of inventory would you want to get rid of or sell at auction this fall? Do you still think it's that low-hourred piece, or do you think if you're looking to higher-hourred equipment and you're trying to advise the seller, where are you seeing the opportunities from a dealer's perspective of good value on higher-hourred equipment?
Yeah, so I think on higher-hourred equipment, I mean, I mean, I don't know that you're going to get, if you're showing up with a 2013 combine that's got 2,000 separator hours on it, to be quite frank, I don't know that you're going to get much more for it at a dealership than you're going to get at an auction. To be honest with you, I don't know that you're going to. I don't know if there's a pro or con there, to be honest with you. But I'll be honest. The other side of that too is what I've seen stuff sell for at an auction, as far as low-houred stuff sell at an auction for. I can go back and look at a lot of dealership stuff, and it's sold. It's advertised for less. So that tells me that there's some good deals to be had at your local dealership, above and beyond what you see happening at the auction place. So I guess if I'm going to advise somebody what to do, I mean, depending on what you've got and what you're wanting to do, there's probably a great opportunity for you to buy a lower hour combine at a dealership at a better price than you're going to buy it for at the auction, just based on what I've seen happen in previous auction sales. That being said, if you've got a higher hour machine that's a run-of-the-mill stuff, I really think at the same time, I don't really see where you're gonna gain anything trading it in versus taking an auction. But that again, all kind of hinges on what do you owe on it? What are you doing? Are you trying to capitalize on your equity? What are those things you're trying to do? And I think that's where it is. But I would definitely say take a look at your dealership and see what they've got stuff advertised for, and then go back and take a look at what stuff's sold at auction, and you tell me where the better deal's at.
And I think I know a place to go look at those auction prices.
I do too.
Over at Iron Comps.
Iron Comps has all that stuff that you can go out and look at. All the great information that you need there, and plus you get $75 off if you use Moving Iron at checkout.
Yeah. Did you know we tracked 503 combines that sold in just August?
Yeah, it's a bunch. Yeah, we did that podcast and you were talking about that, and you asked me how many sold, and I was like, it's got to be close to 500. And it has been a boatload of equipment. Yeah, it's a pile of stuff, man.
In September alone, we tracked $350 million that sold at auction.
God dang, $350 million bucks.
Over the summer from June, and obviously some of the big dealer sales had a lot to do with it. But from June until the beginning of October, something like $700 million of inventory traded at auction. A lot of inventory, a lot of dollars.
Almost $750 million. That's good. In 3 months. So but it goes back to those auctions. The one thing about those auctions is that what percentage of those machines were low houred compared to how many of them were kind of the run of the mill machine that you saw.
I don't know that data, but it's a big difference. I mean, if you look at a 300-hour combine, if you're looking at that 700 series, you're looking over $300,000, $350,000 for a combine. But as soon as you have over 1,000 SEP hours, it depreciates quite a bit more from that perspective.
But the point I'm making is, what was so of those 503 combines, how many of those combines sold that had less than 350 hours on them? It's a finite number. I don't know if it might not even been 10%. It might have been 5% of that 500 combines that sold.
You're probably right. I would speculate there's between 40 and 50 that sold.
So 450 other combines were what we see every day. So that's the point I'm making, is that this market is still saturated with those higher houred machines that we see day in and day out on dealers' lots and on auctions that are bringing, $50,000 to $100,000. So back to my point of, you asked me how do I advise that? Take a look at your dealer's lots and go see what they've got, because you're going to see an opportunity there to get a good quality machine with some great packages that come along with it.
So here's a question I've kind of had for a while. As dealers have tried moving a little more of their inventory or reducing inventories just from a business perspective, do you think dealers will begin to restock some of that inventory?
I think they'll be able to restock it better now than they've been able to do it in the past. I mean, I think there's going to be more. I mean, what we've seen now is that the traditional 1 year roll guy has gotten bigger and put more hours on it. We're seeing more machines come in that have got 500, 600, 700 hours on it on a combine. We're seeing more tractors come in that have got 750 to 1,500 hours on them in a year. We're seeing more of that kind of stuff. What we're missing is the high equity guy who trades his machine in that's got his 250 hour high horsepower row crop tractor, or his 125 to 200 separator hour combine. Those are the things that we're missing. That's that niche in the marketplace that's not there right now, and it's going to be hard to kind of recirculate that, because that same guy now that may be doing the higher equity guy that did that 100 hour combine or 150 hour combine, he might have ran that for 3 years now, and now he's got 350, 400 hours on it, 500 hours on a 3 year old machine, which is still ridiculously low when you put in the grand scheme of things. So once you get that kind of model rebuilt and that trade cycle kind of comes back together again, I think we'll start seeing that again. But we've got to get over this hump, like we talked about, the 450 combines that sold in August there, that are just the run of the mill combine. So if 450 of those sold at an auction, I mean, is that 10% of the population out there on captive on dealership lots? I would argue it's probably higher than that. So I think right now, last time I looked, there were, I got to go back and pull that up, but there's like 12,000 or 13,000 combines listed on Tractor House for sale. It's a lot of combines. And considering that 450 of those sold at auction, or 503 of those sold at auction, right? So
in 1 month.
That's like you're taking a pebble and trying to fill up a bucket, trying to make the water overflow in a bucket, one pebble at a time, and it takes a lot of pebbles to make that happen. So we have a lot of inventory to get through yet before we hit that thing. But that being said, we don't have the bigger pebbles that we need to make that overflow with those lower hour machines, and that's where that true kind of meat and potatoes is that we need to get into.
Completely so, and we'll have to see if that lower hour inventory hits the auction block here this fall. We're starting to see some, but to what extent, it's still yet to be remain to be seen. So should be a really good auction season, and as you mentioned, people are going to have plenty of time to sit and twiddle their thumbs and figure out how much they're going to pay, and then keep clicking the bid now button. Right. And pay a little bit more than what they were planning on.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, that's some good stuff, man. What are your thoughts? So let's take a look at what you see happening. I mean, we kind of talked about what we see happening in 20. What's the auction billet look like going out until from January to March of 21? I mean, there's got to be some auctions starting to kind of get lined up for that.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff doesn't come public until 60 days prior.
60 days prior, yeah.
We're seeing some, but it's too early to make a prediction of inventory that I'd want anybody to hold my feet to the fire of what we're going to see, because that could dramatically change as we go into this fall. Go through this fall and really start to see what inventory does come up. But there's still a lot of guys retiring. There's still plenty of estate sales, and bankers are still sitting back, and they're going to have to build cash flow strategies with their farmers come next spring to buy inputs. And there could be plenty of bankers saying, "Hey, I don't want to see a government assistance payment inside of your cash flow, so don't bank on that for next year." It's probably wise of you. Just same thing bankers have been saying is, if you have any extra equipment, just liquidate it, turn it into cash. You'll have a better return on your investment if you do that today versus keep sitting on that depreciable asset. Right. So
absolutely,
I think we're still going to see a lot of that happen, and just really understanding the market volatility, these prices, what's going up and what's going down, just making sure farmers are understanding what these prices are actually doing and seeing that in real time.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, Kyle, it's great stuff, man. I love when you come on here because I'm a data geek, and this stuff is just right down my alley. So, if folks wanted to get more information about how to use that moving iron coupon code, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, exactly. So, as I mentioned, we're tracking auctions from over 450 auction companies here in the United States, and all of that data and pricing information, transaction history can be found at ironcomps.com. Go sign up, and you can buy a year subscription to be able to see what's happening in the machinery market. It's almost treated as a commodity these days, as Casey and I are always talking about, the machinery prices going up and down, what inventory we're seeing. You can see all of that through Iron Comps. So go to ironcomps.com and subscribe to our membership to be able to see all of this data that Casey and I talk about. And Casey, you use Iron Comps at your dealership, and it sounds like it's going well. Any words of advice for people who are kind of on the fence of becoming a member of Iron Comps?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say how we use it and the way we do it and what we get out of it is the speed of going to look up. I mean, it's pretty easy to go to Machinery Pete, Tractor House, Fastline, wherever you're going to look at your values and pull that data down for what stuff's getting listed for, and you can kind of dredge through what they have posted for auction values. But at the same time, TractorZoom is like you said, there's 400 plus auction houses out there right now that are reporting to them what they're doing, and if you go out and take a look at that data, it's the quickest, easiest way to see what's happening in the auction market, period, the end. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's very simple. It's very, very, very concise, and you can absolutely manipulate the data to get what you want out of it, to see what a ABC piece of equipment sold for on a given time in a given time range. So, to be honest with you, it's changed everything. It's really changed the way we look at equipment, the way we value equipment. It's changed the way that we assess data. It's changed the way that we gather auction data. I mean, it's a simple, easy way to really get the nuts and bolts as to what we see happening out there. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's worth every penny that we pay for it.
We just had a farmer subscribe for a fee, and it's only $299 a year. Mm-hmm. And he didn't know what he needed to pay for this piece of hay equipment. I forget exactly what it was. It was either a baler or a hay line, and the seller was asking something like $35,000 for it. And it was a private party deal. And, on Facebook, Marketplace, Craigslist, everybody's machinery's worth 2x what they'll actually take for it. And he was having a little trouble negotiating with the guy. And so he said, all right, well, I'll just buy the bullet and I'll subscribe to Iron Comps. It's not that expensive, and I think it should be worth its weight in gold. He was able to negotiate $10,000 off the purchase by just using transparent transaction data. So he made him a big believer, and those are the awesome success stories that we like to hear. Yep.
No, I think it's a great tool, and it gives everybody a great opportunity to see what's happening in the marketplace. Which, I mean, it's not a big shocking surprise out there at all. I mean, it's an easy way to validate what we see happening, or validate your hunches anyway, and it's a great way to just develop trends. I mean, you put a lot of slides up here today with a lot of information that you can't. Obviously, you don't have Purdue's farmer sediment built into your algorithms in Iron Comps, but as you can see, you're pulling that data. That's real time data based on what you see happening out there, and you're just mirroring it. So it's a great way to really capitalize on what you see happening out there.
Well, Casey, thanks for having me on. It was great, and look forward to doing another one here come December.
Absolutely.
And then attending your Moving Iron Summit.
Yeah, Moving Iron Summit. So that'll be a good one here. So that check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you're going to find all the latest Moving Iron podcasts as they come out, and also movingironllc.com for all the latest information about the Moving Iron Summit in Nashville, Tennessee, January 20th through 22nd. Kyle and his crew will be there, and they're going to give a little presentation about what they see happening in the marketplace according to the data they pulled, and they're going to be hard-pressed to find another company that's going to have the amount of data points that they have for auctions. And I think that's what separates. It's a niched thing. Like you're really separating yourself out when you take a look at this. So you have great sources to go out and find retail data. And as far as I'm concerned, TractorZoom and Iron Comps are the best place to go find auction data. And it's because it's easily sourced. So check that out. Use go to ironcomps.com and use Moving Iron for your discount code. Get $75 off your subscription. And thank you, Kyle, for doing that for everybody. It's going to be a good way to introduce some folks to what you have here. So looking forward to see where TractorZoom goes here, tracking this stuff here through the end of the year. And appreciate you being on the podcast. I appreciate what you've done for Moving Iron podcast here over the course of 2020.
Thanks, Casey. Until next time, man.
Until next time. Let's go move some iron, folks. I am Casey Seymour with Kyle McMahon. Out.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving on.